What is up, my friends? Oh, there is some news. I got a break right here, thanks to our own Evan Wilsmore. We'll get to that in a second. What is up, my friends, and welcome to another edition of the XFL Week in Review. I'm your host, Mark Perry, editor of XFL News Hub, and on this week's show, we're going to talk about Hub City Talk Chatter. We're going to talk about that and a bunch of other fan control football stuff and so much more. There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes with the XFL. We'll get you caught up to date on all of that fun stuff here in a second, plus some breaking news right now. But first, if you want to be part of the show, email podcast at XFL News Hub with your thoughts, record an MP3 or leave a video on your phone and play it on next week's show. Leave a voicemail, 888-430-7692, extension 3. That is extension 3 is for XFL Week in Review. Extension 5 is for USFL Week in Review, and Extension 6 is for CFL Week in Review. You get the picture. Listen to our show, Stitcher, Audible, Player FM, Amazon, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and, of course, Apple Podcasts. Leave us a review. We'll read it on the show. We really appreciate that. Watch the XFL Week in Review live at 8 p.m. Eastern every Monday at 8 p.m. I said that already. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. And our timeline, 298 days until XFL kickoff. You got your June 18th, 2022 XFL Player Combine. And I'm pulling, stand by, my friend. That's coming up, which sounds like it wasn't going to happen, and maybe it is going to happen. Who knows about that? January 9th, 2023, the XFL training camp begins. And February 18th, 2023, the XFL season begins. Well, I have some little breaking news for you that just dropped on our thing. So our own Evan Wilsmore found this out. And there is going to be an article coming soon, but are you ready for this, my friends? A lot of you were talking, what's up, everybody in the chat, Facebook, all this stuff. We'll talk about this later on in the show, but he pointed this out to us just like a couple minutes ago. June Jones on his Twitter. Offensive coordinator, XFL, for Jim Haslett in Seattle. And, of course, he's also linking to an article about XFL training camp and practice, something that we're going to talk about today. So I will give a like to that. Appreciate Coach June Jones for liking our stuff. And he just posted that an hour ago. So, fans, if you were wondering if June Jones was going to come back, there you go. He is going to be back. He's going to be in Seattle with Jim Haslett as the head coach, and June Jones is returning to the XFL as offensive coordinator. So I knew that these staffs were going to get put together. This kind of puts the pressure off of June Jones and let him do what he does best. Seattle is getting June Jones. Yeah, you really wanted to have June Jones maybe team up with Wade Phillips in Houston. I'm sure Wade Phillips has other plans going for that. Does this mean we get guys like Steve Spurrier to work with Bob Stoops, perhaps? I mean, we can get some names, but that's what it says. Let me know what you think in the chat. Offensive coordinator, Evan is working on an article on this now, but offensive coordinator for the XFL for Jim Haslett in Seattle. So right there, Jim Haslett, as something that Mike Mitchell has reported, as the head coach in Seattle, and June Jones returns to the XFL, but as an offensive coordinator, which really makes that very interesting for Seattle. Very cool. And I'm glad to see June Jones back in the XFL. You got your breaking news right here on XFL Week in Review. We'll get into that later on in the show. First of all, we'll get Evan on that article, but there you have it. Let us know your thoughts in the chat. That just happened as we got in here. So, hey, if you like football, especially if you like the XFL and you're excited about what's coming for the XFL, and we've got a lot of stuff to get to, make sure you like and smash the like button and subscribe to this channel. Let's get this program up to 60 likes and help spread the word about the XFL in the social media world, because we've got a lot of stuff going on. We're less now than 300 days till the XFL kickoff, 298. So it's a lot of exciting things to come. Remember, after this show, we have the USFL News Hub show on at 9 o'clock on USFL channel. And then we have the CFL draft is coming up. The NFL draft is on Thursday, but then the CFL draft is actually next week, I believe, right? Let me check. Yeah, next Tuesday. So we'll be having a live show on that on CFL News Hub talking CFL draft. So that will be a lot of fun. All right, my friends, we've got a lot of news to get into, and I needed to shift the thinking that was going on, and that's why this article came out. And clearly June Jones liked it. A lot of other people from the XFL did like it. So I have a feeling that this is kind of the plan for the XFL, and you're not going to want to miss this stuff. So without further ado, folks, let's just get into the week that was the XFL. All right, so we know this week that coaches from the XFL that were announced met in Dallas, Texas. The Rock posted a picture of him arriving in Texas. The coaches posted pictures in there, and they had a meeting, and they were discussing everything that was going on, that will go on with the XFL. We all know that happened. But there was been a lot of chatter in the all-football world recently regarding spring football leagues playing in hub cities. The USFL is currently playing all its games in one city, Birmingham, Alabama. At the same time, a move like that seems good on paper, but it hasn't really been that great for the USFL. There is a big disconnect between fans of a league's home cities, which is an issue pointed out by both the hardcore football fans and the casual football person. So the reason why the engagement has not been good, as it was in the XFL, let's be honest, in the USFL is because Pittsburgh, there is no connection. Pittsburgh doesn't play in Pittsburgh. All of these teams play in Birmingham. There's just no connection for the fans to have with these home teams. So recently, our own XFL insider, Mike Mitchell, had written about talks within the XFL circles of the league possibly doing the same thing. They're like, no, we don't want that. However, not so fast to jump to conclusions that their model is going to be the same thing as the USFL's. No, the XFL's version of a hub is different. And this is why I needed to point this out, because everybody was jumping down the XFL is going to do a same hub model like the USFL. And that's not the case. In Mike Mitchell's report about Anthony Beck, who did an interview at coaching, he always dropped this little piece of information that seems to have gotten overlooked by everyone. And that's why I had to put this article out, because I was really kind of thinking about what this means, and I started to get excited. So, quote, this is from Mike Mitchell. Recently, sources have indicated that the XFL has been pivoting from having a potential fully fledged hub setting for the league, especially after what they've seen what's going on with the USFL and its criticism, and leaning more towards setting up a central league headquarters in Texas for all 8 teams. The idea is that teams would practice together and have mini and training camps in Texas before playing games in local markets during the season, close quote. Think about this. This move by the XFL would have the best of both worlds. Let's break down, because it's a brilliant approach to season 1 of the XFL 3.0 era. And we'll get into that in a second. But first, politics and paperwork cost lots of money. So when the AAF was trying to set up practice areas for each of its team cities, something seemingly so simple to set up was a significant roadblock. Politics, local ordinances, licenses, and insurance are all just a few of the obstacles to overcome to have a team practice football in any location. It's not just here's a field, here's some balls and equipment, and go at it. There's insurance, there's licenses, there's local ordinance, there's all sorts of things that have to happen just to make that happen. Now, due to Florida's workers' compensation laws, the Orlando Apollos, under head coach Steve Spurrier, had to practice in Georgia. So you get the idea. Now, this is not the first that I heard this issue when it comes to all of these leagues. This was something that the USFL had brought up. This is something that wasn't just Florida's worker compensation laws dealing with the Orlando Apollos, but there were other issues of trying to get permits and things like that in the local area to allow you to do stuff. It's not that easy. And just try to get your local gas line lit, or get your permit to put your deck on. You get the idea. It's not easy. So what if instead all of your teams practice in the same state or area? This way, you only need to figure out the logistics once. Hence, the idea of Texas as the headquarters for the XFL. This logistical nightmare is why the USFL wanted to start in one location, which is Birmingham, Alabama. But what the USFL lacks, which is genuine interest in the league and local markets, there is none. I hate to break it to you, there is none whatsoever. It's only us alt football fans and people tuning in on TV. And we've seen the ratings. The ratings went, at least on the USA Network, went from 700,000 to 300,000. And we were there for the XFL. We knew it was going to be a drop-off, but there's some concern in the USFL circles with those ratings because there's no connection. There is no connection. That's why the CFL doesn't work in the United States per se, because there's no connection. That is very important. So what the USFL lacks, which is that genuine interest in the local markets, the XFL can make up for by flying the teams to home locations on a Thursday or Friday and then playing the games on Saturday and Sunday. The players can meet the fans, have events, talk with local reporters, then fly back to Texas afterwards. Does it really matter where the DC Defenders practice if you're a fan? I would love to go see them practice. If they were practicing in College Park or Northern Virginia or wherever. And I did go to practices, and me and maybe 20 or 30 other, it wasn't open to fans all the time. That's a nice thing to have for season ticket holders, but it's not enough to make it. Just think that's one location that they have to pay for. What if they took that approach? Let's continue. So you want a chance to meet the team and see the games live. That's about it. You can still do all of this with this approach. Really, that's the bottom line. You want to see the games, and if you're a season ticket holder, you would like to be at an event or two where you meet. I don't care if it's the coaches and a couple players. I'm cool with that. Or if it's the coaches and all the players. Just one of those kind of things. Now, it was nice when the XFL was doing their thing, when the they were doing these meetings, and the coach would be there, and team presidents, those kind of things were cool. They could still do that when meeting the team president, or maybe having a player or two out there. But this option works. This option works. Let's continue. And this explains why there are why are there 3 XFL teams in Texas? I've got to fix that. It is clear now why the XFL has 3 teams in Texas. You can do the math and calculate how playing a certain percentage of all your games in one state can save you money, let alone practice and train in the same location. One team can practice at 12 at location A, for example. The next team can come in at 4 p.m. and practice at the same location, saving money for the league and sharing resources for the little things like equipment for teams, practice dummies, trainers, water jugs, athletics tape, you name it. Teams can share it all at one location. So if you have 4 locations with 2 teams practicing in each and rotating schedules, that saves you a bunch of money rather than having one practice location for one team in one state and having to deal with all of the things that come along with that one. You can get it all figured out in one state of Texas. So you got The Rock showing up with his sweatshirt. He's going with the white sweatshirt, the black letters. I'll have to get that one too. He says, XFL represents the intersection of opportunities, and that's my job as owner, to create opportunities for players to ball out, live their dreams, take care of their families. But today, for our entire XFL, the great state of Texas, here we come, wheels up, XFL HQ football, Texas us. He's got it there. Now think about the travel costs. If all teams flew out of the same airport, think about that. Texas is central to all the locations. Flying into Seattle, DC, St. Louis, Orlando, and New York would be easy too, but those locations are expensive. LA and New York would be easy too, but those locations are expensive. LA and New York. And trust me, I grew up on Long Island. I know, and I live in Maryland. So now you know New York is expensive. So hotel costs. You can make a deal with one hotel chain in Texas, and then for home games, you're only having to pay for 2 or 3 days stay for games outside of Texas. So if you take your team and you fly DC and Seattle to DC for a game, you're just putting the 2 teams up at one location, and then that's it, and then they're coming home. Or if DC plays Dallas, then they're not going anywhere. They're staying in that home location. So it makes a big difference. And the teams will get the vibe from the hometown fans by just being in the stadium, which you don't get that at all with USFL games. Also, hotel costs. You can make a deal with one hotel in Custer. Then you have home games. You only have to pay for 2 or 3 days. And hotels are already paid for in Texas for the whole 2023 season. So it costs you nothing extra when games are played in Texas. 3 teams in Texas, 8 teams total. You do the math. You figure out how many of those games are played in Texas versus being outside of Texas. You save a bunch of money. Now, also the problem that we've been hearing, Mike Mitchell has talked about, the frustration within XFL circles of how hard it is to land local deals because the XFL 2.0 locations were burned before. Not their fault, but that's what happened. Then the XFL went bankrupt. There was some expected money. Like locals, districts had to cover some of the costs. You know how all that stuff works. Lawyers, the whole deal. So locations don't want to be burned again. However, the XFL 2.0 did prove that in areas like DC, my team, Seattle, and St. Louis, the thirst for spring football is there. So not playing in the cities for the 2023 season will be a lost opportunity to build good faith with the fan base. Also, think about all the money you're losing in tickets revenue in these cities. The XFL could easily sell 30,000 tickets for a Battlehawks game in St. Louis. Are you kidding me? The city was on the cusp of this before COVID shut the league down and everything down. Having this hybrid model would solve this. Think about the XFL kicking off the 3.0 era where 30,000 fans in St. Louis would be huge for the league in terms of optics. The league needs to build that bridge back to the fans and places like LA and New York. So having a good showing for a season in 2023 would certainly open the doors for LA Wildcats and New York Guardians to rejoin the league. I wanted to put this out there, is that just because Mike Mitchell has been talking about LA and New York not being part of the league, that doesn't mean that that door is closed. It just means that, LA, New York, you're too expensive. We need to deal with our stuff, get through the first season, and then after that, we can talk Mexico, New York, LA, and bring teams back there. It would also show the other non-Texas teams that the league is back, and they want to bring those teams home for the 2024 season. So think about it. You have DC Defenders playing its games. Forget that. You have St. Louis. Let's talk about the biggest dog in the league, which is St. Louis. St. Louis having its home games, 30,000 fans. Everything is rocking and rolling. The first season is a success. Do you think Kitty, whatever her name is, that says the same quote every single time, is whatever, maybe she's hard boiling The Rock and Redbird Capital because they're like, well, you guys got money. You're going to pay us more this time. Next time I go around, they're like, hey, are you ready to have us in the league? Just think of all the things, the extra stuff that team will bring by having them practice in the area. You're losing out. The cities are losing out on the revenue that the XFL would bring by housing the players in hotels, just like the deal that the USFL brought with Birmingham, with the hotels, everything. These leagues who are playing hardball right now are now going to go do an about face because the league was successful that first year and be like, please, let's make a deal. Like, take the deal now because you're not going to get the same deal in 2024, St. Louis, DC, Seattle, etc. So take the deal now to get that team to play there. But the XFL might not need to do that. Just something to think about. So News Hub writer Pat Ruffino recently was on the Markcast and talked about what's better optics for football fans. Having the first 5 weeks of a spring football season, then it gets shut down because it's burned through money like crazy, or the league actually comes back for season 2. That's what we need. This hub model has to be the way for both the USFL and XFL to start. The question is, will be 5 years from now, which model is better? So you have to think about that too. As for Texas as the home location for the XFL, why not? SpaceX, Bitcoin mining, the Tesla Gigafactory are some of the new few businesses to open up shop in Texas recently because the state has been very business friendly. Coupled with the state's obsession with football, it's a win-win. Think about Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio. Those places will do well. Houston did well. Dallas was okay. And San Antonio could rival St. Louis in terms of fans. So with the XFL approach to the hybrid hub season, they can get the best of both worlds. So it's something to consider when you hear the terrible word hub city and you're like, ugh, this is the way that it will work. And it makes sense to me 100%. I didn't get the whole 3 teams in Texas until this bit of information from Mike Mitchell came out. And now this makes sense to me that this will work. Here's the deal, fans. 2 things you need to consider as I wear my glasses. Number 1, all roads lead to the NFL. Whether they call it a developmental league or not is irrelevant. It is a nuance that don't even worry about it. Being connected with the NFL and the NFL's quality of players, another knock against the USFL, is going to help things for the XFL. It is not the minor leagues. There's the DC Defenders is not going to be a feeder system to the DC Commanders. They're still doing their own thing. Could 10 years from now that happen? Who knows? I'm not worried about 10 years. I really want to get through year 1 and possibly up to year 3, and I'd be happy. That was my whole goal before that. So that's number 1, is don't worry about that part. And number 2, the idea of having a hub season. You have to do it. You have to do it. There is no way around it. There is no way. Now, the XFL did say that in their first iteration that they were making money, but these guys know that they're trying to just, in the initial part, until it's established, you want to kind of cut your costs the best way. You would rather play, by doing this, for example, you can pay for the players' hotel rooms. You can give them more money than the USFL. The money's got to come from somewhere. You cut back on doing that. Now you can pay the players more money and give them better benefits. And then that the long term, because we're playing the long game. Trust me, been covering the XFL since 2018. Playing the long game is what you got to do. And I think this version of a practice hub and training, think about Team 9 too, also being there. The minute they need a player, boom, they go right to one of those teams that they're right there. It makes sense. This is the way the XFL should do it. This is the way I have a feeling that they're going to do it. Let us know what you think in the comments. Has this changed your opinion about the word hub city? So the XFL updates its job site and adds director of payroll, senior vice president of ticket sales. So the XFL is building towards the 2023 return to the field. We know the league is in Dallas, Texas. They met with the 8 head coaches, the new XFL brand launch, and coaches. More jobs around the league need to be filled because now we're cranking things up. Before, the XFL posted their job openings on Indeed and LinkedIn. It looks like they have now changed things to ADP for all you corporate nerds. The new staff job postings are director of payroll, senior vice president of ticket sales, and staff accounting. The director of payroll job, get this, is based in Arlington, Texas, home of the Dallas Renegades. Put that together. Following our own Mike Mitchell's reporting, the XFL plans to have their home base in Texas. The XFL 2.0 era had its home base in Stamford, Connecticut, home of the WWE, but now we don't need to do that anymore. So director of payroll job posting in Arlington, Texas, quote, reporting to the CFO, the director of payroll will oversee and manage the organization's payroll functions, ensuring pay is processed on time, accurately, in compliance with federal and state regulators. Again, payroll place in one section, paying players in one state, saving money. You get the idea, simplifying things in that first season and in compliance with federal and state regulations. To be successful in this role, you should have previous experience managing and processing payrolls for a large organization in a multi-state environment and have excellent attention to detail. Senior Vice President of Ticket Sales. This is a remote job. Any of you suckers out there want this job, go on there and get it. The Senior Vice President of Ticket Sales and Service will be responsible for developing and managing sales and service campaigns for the XFL teams, domestic and international. Let me repeat, domestic and international. International is not LA. International is not Florida, Key West. International is Mexico, Europe, and Canada. Just throwing it out there in case you didn't know that and you weren't in class the day that they explained to you what international was. Across a full menu of ticketing products, including season ticket memberships, USFL isn't doing that. Group tickets, clearly, bros. We're playing. We're going to get your friends together. We're going to bus together. Suites, heck yeah. Let's make some money on these sites. I'll get a suite. And individual game tickets, including pricing, packaging, and retention strategies, and overseeing ticket operations across league and team markets. That's something that the USFL has not even mentioned season ticket sales anywhere. I really don't think any of their teams in the USFL, to be honest with you, will make it to their home location in 2023. I really don't, unless they take the XFL model with there. Staff accountant, New York or remote. Staff accountant supports XFL's day-to-day accounting operations as well as month-end close process, account reconciliation, a lot of nerdy APA and AR functions, sales and tax reporting. You get the idea. If you're a book nerd, math geek, there you go. That's for you. Ticket sales job is interesting because it references season tickets for domestic and international. If the XFL were planning on playing in a hub season, why fill this position now? Mike Mitchell's reporting about the 8 teams will be in the U.S. for 2023, so maybe the hub season is in place, but the plan is to move away from that model in 2024. We'll have to wait to find out. The XFL is currently working on securing venue deals and expects to make some announcements over the next several months per their latest coaching press release. So if any of you nerds that want this, that are listening to this show, get this job with the XFL, you can fill us in on all the details. We'd appreciate it. New details on the XFL player salary, housing, and roster sizes. I've been following this one for a while. I knew this for months. Kevin Seifert on ESPN reports the details between player agents and the XFL and the Monday, a meeting that took place last week. This meeting has been in the works before the USFL kicked off this weekend. The event was hosted by Inside the League's Neil Stratton. So in Kevin Seifert's pitch, he said XFL executive pitch agents last night on their 2023 season, more counter-programming to the USFL. That is clear. And then this was the title. Source, XFL makes pitch in meeting to foil USFL. Not necessarily true. That is not an accurate statement. I'll get to that. ITL started in 2002 as a place for NFL agents to get information or become an agent. The ITL has had events with NFL and USFL personnel in the past, and Brian Woods did I think somebody, one or two other people might have been there too, did an event with them in the past. This meeting with the XFL player personnel was supposed to occur during the NFL Combine Week back in early March. Broski. This wasn't supposed to, but it got pushed. It got moved because of logistics and you know what rules at the time. That's why. So to suggest that the timing of this is based on the USFL is not accurate, but it makes a nice catchy title. Have fun with that. From the ITL last week, this is what they posted to their membership. Quote, Monday at 8 p.m., Executive Vice President of Football Operations Mark Ross, Senior VP of Player Personnel Doug Whaley, and Senior Director of Player Administration and Officiating Operations Russ Giglio will join the football business community on a Zoom hosted by Inside the League's Neil Stratton. They'll discuss the details of player acquisition and talent evaluation, rosters, season length, gameplay, and other issues related to the health and maintenance of the most important assets, the men who will take the field next spring. Time permitted, they'll also take some questions from members' audience. Seifert is reporting some of those details of that meeting, including XFL player salaries, housing, and meals. So, quote, USFL players are receiving $4,500 per week in addition to bonuses if their team wins. They also receive subsidized housing during their regular season. The USFL pays $75 towards the $150 hotel room rate. at the league's one-site location in Birmingham, Alabama. Ross and Whaley told agents that the XFL salaries will be higher and will include full housing and meal costs during the season. Remember, initially the USFL was going to make its players pay the $150 hotel room rate. Then the agents and fans got wind of that, and they changed it to $75. A lot of players, if you watched United by Football TV show that they have on 30 minutes before they kick off the first game, some of these guys are not taking that up and getting houses off campus or away from the field. And there was a whole thing about that on there. The XFL will also have larger roster sizes than the USFL. Each of the XFL's 8 teams are expected to have 70-man rosters with 45 active for games, translating to about 560 jobs for players. This is awesome. About 200 more than the current roster limits in the USFL. USFL players signed 2-year contracts, complicating any effort to switch the league in 2023. Not so fast. Actually, the number as the actual numbers become available, it'll be interesting to see how the USFL will respond. They can always make changes too. Lack of roster size and paying for the hotel rooms have been some of the complaints from players and coaches in the USFL. The USFL did adjust its player paying from $150 a night to $75 after complaints from player agents. So that's what you have as far as you've got more jobs, which is great. Remember, we are rooting for all fan control football, XFL, USFL to succeed because there is job opportunities for players to live out their dreams. And there you have what the XFL is planning to doing. This stuff should be coming sooner rather than later. We will get more information on that as the XFL builds up their coaching staffs and looking at players. This part will be coming out sooner rather than later.
Hello, I'm Bill Lyons. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer here at Major League Football. I know a lot of you are looking for more information from us, information about what's going on and when. But what I really know is that you want the same thing we do, cleats in the grass. A lot has gone on behind the scenes these last few months. With all that work and effort has come a lot of frustration as well. Unexpected delays, mostly on the publicly traded company side, were simply not foreseen. Everything in its time, we have said. Everything done correctly. Do the next right thing. That's what we've tried to accomplish. The need for patience has been great, and you've shown us the strength that we'd asked for. Our equipment managers and field ops guys are in the warehouse right now preparing the equipment to be transported to camp. I would ask everybody to take a breath and know that we're almost there. Major League Football will have cleats in the grass this year. We will have a 2022 season, and we will deliver football and the stories of how the players get there to you.
There you go. Major League Football put out that video. We got this press release today that on April 25th, 2022 from the office of MLFB. I thought this was kind of interesting. A very busy week. As back to our game plan on announcements. First, the MLB store has been delayed. There were a few last-minute changes in that online store should be established as MLFB continues to operate in the best interest of the company. Slight shift in direction was implemented. The MLFB League store will be launched first. Provided the suppliers can meet the projected delivery schedule, you'll be able to purchase MLFB shirts, hats, etc. on or before Friday of this week. Then, as team cities and the coaches are announced, team merchandise will become available. If you check our previous videos, we all know the teams and logos, Attack, Force, Independence, Armada as the team names. Speaking of coaches, our 4th coach has not been announced because that person has withdrawn from consideration at the 11th hour due to a family health situation. So that's too bad. CEO Murtha has quickly shifted gears, and the 4th MLFB coach will be announced this week. The goal is tomorrow, but there are some details remaining that need to be finalized. That said, the quality of coach for all of our teams will be incredible. This week, they spotlight the man that makes the facilities happen, Rick Nichols. They talk about him and stuff that he's worked on. But Major League Football gives you an announcement there, and expect to have a coaching hire here coming this week in an online store. Are you going to buy some merch?
Last-minute losses, and I am also going to be very cool.
He's got the fan. He's ready. Oh, it's Johnny Manziel. We got Manziel football. Look at this. One play in. One play in. Johnny Manziel. Touchdown.
We've been waiting for this. We've been waiting for this. We've been waiting for this. We've been waiting for this.
Can you believe?
We were excited to see Johnny come in. There obviously has been the Zappers were having a difficult time on offense, but now you're watching this right here. One play and Johnny steps back into Jordans, no less.
Yo, what did we talk about? We said out of structure, all good, roll out.
Wow, that
dime
was
piece.
By the way, my man just kind of flipped it sidearm.
No, you know.
Johnny Manziel to Terrell Owens. This is a match made in heaven, right? So Fan Control Football Season 2.0, Week 2, full recap. The Bored Apes Club, 32, Team Aoki, 14. My team is not doing very good. Bored Apes Club with the win there. Game 2, Knights of Deegan, 28 versus Kingpins, 8. Nice little flip there. Gatorade Player of the Game is Ed Crouch. Oh, Gatorade Player of the Game is DeAndre Francis there. I didn't get a chance to watch that. Glacier Boys beat up on the Zappers 44-6. What's up with the game? Was Devlin Isidore. So T.O. gets another one, but his team's not playing well with Manziel too. Let's go, guys. Let's go. Get it together. Should have been Stars 24, Beasts 6. Player of the game, Ladarius Galloway there. MVP ladder, Ladarius Galloway. He's a running back. He's up there. Andrew Gimmel, Glacier Boys, wide receiver. Slick Nick Williams, defensive end, playing well. And Mitch Kidd, Aoki quarterback. I mean, he's doing good, but, I mean, we're not winning. So there are the players, top players from Fan Control Football. Remember, their games are on Saturdays. They have 2 games on Saturday afternoon, 2 games on Saturday night. I'll be back with your social media stuff right after this. Stay tuned, my friends.
Coming up today on the Markcast. Yeah, we are moving to Texas. We have Danny busy Instagramming from downtown Dallas. The Rock is jet setting to Texas. We are packing up the XFL and we are hitting the road. Huge implications. Is this the doomsday scenario hub season of the XFL? Are we setting up businesses there? Is that going to be the home base for operations? We have a longtime friend of the show, your friend and mine, Greg Parks from XFLboard.com, stopping by.
It just doesn't sound good, and it gives the impression, right or wrong, that financially the league is not willing to go as far as it needs to make this league successful.
And then we still have lots of USFL stuff to talk about. Remember that big lawsuit that was pending that was threatening the shutdown of the season? Whatever happened with that? Well, it kind of got buried in the news the Thursday before the USFL kickoff last weekend. So luckily we have Michael Cohen, trademark and IP lawyer, stopping by to fill us in on all that.
When you go through discovery, you do depositions, you do interrogatories and all that. New evidence might come to light that might contradict some of this stuff.
We are also joined by Pat Ruffino of XFL and USFL News Hub. We're talking all the USFL Week 1 news coming out. We got Chipgate, Pizzagate, the new kicking balls for the USFL. Talking all that stuff and previewing Week 2.
I'm not an XFL hater because the thing is when you hate on these leagues, you're not hating on Daryl Johnson and Dwayne Johnson and Danny Garcia. You're hating on Luis Perez. You're hating on John Wolford. You're hitting on these players who this is going to make or break their lives.
And then we got your CFL love as always. We have Jagarrett Davis, courtesy of the Toronto Argonauts, joining us.
Sports football leagues besides the NFL, y'all got to capitalize on that opportunity because, like, if you don't, you're going to get left behind. So you don't want to go from second to last. And you're an afterthought. I mean, once you're an afterthought, you base your history. And the CFL has been around too long and too big of an opportunity for them to maximize it, for them not to do so.
Should be a loaded show. Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah. We're back. What's up, chat room? Make sure you say, take a second. I gave you some good information that only the insiders know and you guys know. That no one else is talking about it right now, but they'll talk about it later. So do us a favor, smash that like button. We want to get to 60 likes for this program because it was jam-packed of information, not whiny garbage that you get on other sports talk shows out there on ESPN and Fox and other argument yelling at each other's crap. Palette Demo says, hello, what's up? Nice now to get Battlehawks coach back in St. Louis. Hey, June Jones returning to the XFL leaves the door open for guys like Jonathan Hayes to return. I would love to see, out of anybody, I would love to see Jonathan Hayes back. I would love to see Winston Moss return. Those would be, of course, I wanted Pep Hamilton to return, but I would love to see those guys and a lot of the assistant coaches too that were part of the league. I would love to see them return as well. He says, I agree with the disconnect watching the Breakers at Bandits games. There was only 15 fans in the stand. Like, I mean, I know that you knew that there wasn't going to be a lot of fans in the USFL games. This doesn't surprise me at all because it has no connection. But my question is there a connection between the New Orleans fans and Tampa Bay fans at all? Anyway, you might as well have called them, the Finsters, the Finster teams, because, from Finsterville. Talking about my dog. Jose says if they do a hub location, at least 2 hub cities, Dallas, West Division, St. Louis. I was thinking about the 2 hub cities, but I think the best way to do it is everybody in Dallas and Arlington. That's the headquarters. Let's go. Let's go to work. Jared says the XFL said they would play in 2022. Then they changed the video and added 2023. Hub City 23 would be a letdown because they had an extra year. I thought they were the hardest workers. I think the CFL thing threw them off. I think what was out there. This also kind of solves that problem too, having everybody in one location. If you needed to lock people down and be like, listen, things are getting out of hand. We didn't want them to affect our season. So we're just going to lock things down a little bit and everybody could be one. You could kind of control that place. But yeah, I mean, it's been a letdown, but I think they were building stuff. The CFL talks took a long time and then, they weren't going to do anything because what was happening because that would cost them extra money. And now, but now we're ready to go. There's coaches now. There's a new logo. We're ready to go. So if they didn't play in 2023, I'd be stunned. Yeah. Paladin says having a central practice hub makes sense. The main training camp might get awkward if a team needs to practice in between weeks. Coach sipping Jamba juice of the straw. 2023 is going to be great. Spring football madness. Yep. Speed tech sounds much better than USFL plan. I agree there. Willie Alex Warrior Molina says, I love football, period. NFL, XFL, USFL, CFL. Then, Willie, you are a guy. XFL News Hub, CFL News Hub, USFL News Hub. Tyrone, a merger between the USFL and XFL would be great, just like the XFL. I don't know if they'll do a merger anytime soon. We will have to see how that goes with the USFL. There is some data about the ratings that are not that great, and there's some concern there as well. Let's get to the social media real quick. On the Facebook, talking about the hub situation, Michael says, get LA moving to Las Vegas, Tampa moving to Orlando. Which team is relocating to San Antonio? Sounds like Texas will have 3 teams, which makes sense. But how do they have only 8 teams with San Antonio in the mix? That's because LA and New York are out. It will work maybe if you actually do it. Meanwhile, the USFL has TV contract and some momentum. Don't split the spring market. Come to an agreement and merge. You have it there. About the XFL coaches meeting in Dallas, that hubs thing. Does anyone know if St. Louis got the Battlehawks back? Yeah. Yeah, that's what we hear. That's what we hear, my friend, that the Battlehawks are back. It'd be crazy. Crazy not to. Plus, Kitty tells us. I want to meet Kitty one day. Well, it's one of my goals. Whoever knows Kitty, I want to meet her. And be like, I walk up to her. They'd be playing the game right behind me, and she would tell me the same quote. We're talking with the XFL about playing their season here. But Kitty, the game is going on right behind me. My name is Mark. Hi, Mark. The XFL is going to be, we're talking with the XFL. That's what would happen. YouTube, the Lamont Factor, thank God, talking about this hub thing. Any idea when we'll know which the cities? Not yet. I think that is being finalized. And well, that's Instagram. There we go. That is coming out. I don't know when the cities are. Not really sure when they would drop that information. On the Twitter, Richard O for Real says, fantastic articles by Mark Perry. I can go for this as a fan. All the teams practice in one state. Texas is okay as long as that they can play in their team's cities. I can see the fans at the game on television. Hell yeah, can't wait. There you go, my friend there. Appreciate that. Philip, okay, you're going to reload on me. Okay, that's not nice. Let's see here. Wedge77 said, this scenario could work. If you have 3 teams in Texas, they're all within driving distance of each other. Save money on plane tickets. Exactly. This is the way. This is the way. Van Hurst, Vanster 2000, gave this big long thing out here about talking about that. He says, on another note, is a standard charter aircraft can easily move 2 teams to a game day city. No difference in jet lag between the teams would be the normalization. That's true. As a result, gameplay should be more stable. So that's right. One home team going into the other one, they both have to do the same thing. The other highly significant factor is income tax on players. He goes on for clarity. Let's see what he talks about that. Where is the income tax? He said Texas and Florida and Washington State don't have income tax. DC has an exemption for out-of-state residents. So under this model, the league could structure the payroll to minimize income tax liability for players. More money on the check would be a draw for talent in the XFL. Also, Nevada could be added to the list of teams placed here. Thus, St. Louis would be the location with the highest income tax liability for players. California and New York are rumored not to have XFL teams. Always follow the money when questioning business motives. And he said, just for clarity, I'm also bi-coastal, maintain homes in Washington State and Texas, Gulf Coast area, just a few hours south of Arlington. The benefits that Texas provides to XFL are much more than most people will see. I-35 is known as the football freeway for a reason. So there you have it. He kind of explains it even in more detail. He's got 2 houses, so he knows the deal. There you get an idea of how this is a good idea. Because I wasn't sure how the USFL deal was going to work out by not having the home team. I didn't know how the fans would react. I didn't know the interest. And yeah, you have your Fox affiliate interview a coach, and that's your one segment, and there is no connection between the city and the players and anything. It just seems very stale. The USFL could fix that and be like, hey, we're going to play a game this season, and you know, hey, we want to play a game in season. We want to play at your stadium. This is the date. Can you make this happen? They could do that, and that would generate some interest. They need to do something like that next year. And for the record, it is expensive to fly. I don't know how expensive it is to fly out of Birmingham, but it's super expensive to fly into Birmingham, where it is super cheap to fly into places like Dallas, Orlando, some of these bigger hubs. Just pointing that out there, because I tried to fly into, it was like $800 to fly into Birmingham, or like $200 to fly into Atlanta and drive 4 hours. Something crazy. 3/4, let's get to the YouTube. 343, Fox Dens, your dog is cute. What's his name? Finn, says James. Yes, Finn. Finn was in the doggy hospital today, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, it's true. Finny Finster, who is not here, it was in the doggy hospital. He had a little hives. We think a bug bite him. It's happened to him before. And he just kind of face gets all bubbly. And so he's doing good now. He's sleeping upstairs. But yeah, Finny Finster was feeling a little under the weather for the last 24 hours. Theodore says, someone in the chat indicated it was 40 years of rugby in the CFL. Not quite true. The forward pass was legalized in Canada football in 1929. The forward pass is illegal in rugby, obviously. So he makes a great point. It's almost 100 years when they started the forward pass, really, in 1929. That makes sense. James says, this may be a controversial take, but Fan Control Football social media presence has really turned me off from the league. They spend a lot of time making fun of other alternative leagues. We'll get to his thing in a second, because he actually called. James calls in. Great show as always from King of the North. Usually can't listen live, but I always look forward to watching it later in the week. Can't wait for 2023. Thank you very much, sir. Thanks for listening. Hypothetically, if both leagues are successful in the first years, would there be a USFL or XFL and CFL merger, USFL merger? I think that would be on the table, but there could be blood in the water for the USFL based on the ratings this week. We're trying to nail them down and figure that stuff out. Let's go to a phone call, shall we?
Hey, my name is James Messner. I'm a longtime listener of the program, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to speak to you. I am an alternative football fan. I love the FCF, I love the XFL, and I love the USFL. I love it all. But I do have a major, major, major issue with the FCF, and that is the fact that they seem to spend a lot of time on social media talking trash about these other alternative football leagues. Now, I get it. I get their audience is young, and I get they use social media a lot, and they're, all about the memes and all about the meme culture and, oh, aren't we funny, aren't we edgy? But your on-the-field product can speak for you. Don't talk trash about these other leagues. I don't understand it. I saw a tweet a week before the season kicked off where it was like, how many Hall of Fame players are on current rosters? And it was like NFL 0, USFL 0, CFL 0, and then it was like FCF 1. And it was like Terrell Owens. And I'm like, okay, I get it, but all you could have said was, hey guys, just so you don't forget, like, Terrell Owens is playing in our league. Like, that's all you could have said. Like, you didn't have to, like, crash these other leagues. And then I saw this whole thing with the pizza thing with the USFL, and they, of course, memed the hell out of that. And they're like, we let our guys, sorry for saying hell, but we let our guys eat pizza. And it's like, okay, but you just let the on-field quality speak for itself. I don't know. I don't know if I'm in the minority on that, but the social media team better be careful, because I get what they're trying to do, but it's turning fans off. It's definitely turning me off. So what are your thoughts?
Appreciate the phone call. Appreciate you being a fan. Hey, there are people within our circle, XFL, USFL, News Hub, that don't like the social media game of the fan control football, and it is a turnoff to them too. I would agree with that. That's just their kind of shtick, I guess. I mean, I ignore it, but you are not in the minority. There are people that don't like the fan control football's attitude, because they're like, well, yo, you're arena football. If that, gimmicky football. And, so yes, you're not in the minority when it comes to that. I'll tell you that. Jim says, I'd love a pick'em game, so I'm hoping the hub will create XFL Pick'em League. Absolutely. I think by then we'll have that in there. Not during the USFL season. I need to make sure I can get through a week without having to deal with bugs and data issues and that thing. But that Pick'em game will definitely be coming. I think that will be part of one of the things of locking rosters at game time as a potential, not locking rosters at game time, but locking individuals at game time. If I had the games in the system with the dates and times, I think it could work. But we'll have to keep an eye on that. But yeah, something I've been thinking about. Definitely doing a pick'em game. There's no question. I have to ask before, and I think we were planning on it, but I wanted to ask again. The only reason I pay attention to the NFL nowadays is because of playing in the pick'em league for the past 15 years, the guys and gals, and it's pretty great. The commissioner is from Vienna, Virginia, not too far from you. Yeah. Thanks, Mark. The hub rocks as usual. Thank you very much, Jim, and shout out to Vienna, Virginia. No people that live in Vienna, Virginia. Finally, our man Paladin Demo sent this in before we close up the show. He's got his the Memphis Maniacs theme is now complete. This is his 4th XFL theme and 2nd 01 XFL theme there. So you got the Memphis Maniacs there. Pretty cool stuff from Paladin Demo. Hey, that's it for this week's show. Podcast at XFL News Hub with your thoughts. Record an MP3 and leave it on your phone. We'll play it on next week's show. 888-430-7692, extension 3. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. And, of course, watch our show live at 8 p.m. Eastern every Monday on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch, my friends. All right, that's it for this week's show. I appreciate everybody in the chat room. One last time. Let's see what we got in there. What do we got in there? Jose, we've got Philip. Act My Age. FCF is not a football league. It's a video game. Okay, it's true. Willie in there. Shady Sports Network. FCS is arguably worse play than the IFL. Charles Webster. Philip says, go Roughnecks. Jared, wish we could talk about FCA making fun of the USFL and pizza chicken salad. Yeah, that was funny. I made fun of that a little bit to do. Pip 2323. Clint, it will be new ABC, CB, ESPN, etc. Damien, everybody, thanks for checking in. God bless you all. Make sure you smash that like button. Let's get this program to 60 likes, okay? We really appreciate that. my friends. Remember, we got the USFL show on at 9 p.m. Eastern. Right after this, we got some interesting USFL things to talk about. All right, that's it for me, folks. God bless. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you all later.